Hey, eighth grade, how are you today? I am super missing you guys, but it's Friday, so congratulations on making it to Friday in this interesting and new kind of week. I'm super hyped to keep reading with you guys today. I also just finished up our lesson plans for next week, so I hope you guys are ready to jump into those. Two big updates I want you to remember. I'm really starting to use on the Google Classroom the tab that's called Classwork. And so I want you guys to explore on there a little bit. For today and for yesterday, Thursday, you should have completed your Do Now on there and your journal on there. I made them rainbow colors, so they're super cute. But what it is basically a worksheet. So you each have your own copy, and I can click on them and I can see them. I want to start putting grades into Jupyter because a lot of you really, really deserve A's for the hard work that you've been putting in recently. And I want to make sure it reflects on that so that your high schools can see that you just continued to kill it no matter what happened. So those two things are, please make sure you're doing your Do Now and your journal on those Google Docs that I made for you. And also check out the night comprehension questions and graphic organizers page. On there, I basically just typed in all the questions that are on your worksheets and I made tables to look like your graphic organizers. Shout out to Deja for giving me the idea on that one. You are really killing it, Deja. Keep it up. I am going to be expecting those to be getting finished so that I can put those into Jupyter, but also so that I can see if there's something that I read that I didn't explain quite enough to you. I need you to answer those questions so I can see that. So today we're going to continue reading Night. And I'm just quick pulling up my lesson plan so that I can check what pages we're reading. Oh my gosh, it's stuck. We are going to read, sorry, this is so awkward, pages 39 to 46 today. 39 to 46, I found out. So go ahead and grab your book. I'm very hopeful that you've been annotating and follow along with me. Things are super intense for Ellie right now. He's had that realization that he just saw his mom and his sisters probably for the last time. And I want you to notice how the humanity of the Jews is being completely stripped away and taken away from them. Yesterday, we saw their hair get cut off. We saw their clothes get taken away and their shoes taken away. And so today we're going to see more of the dehumanization of the Jewish people. Please meet me up at the top of page 39. We're going to start right here where it says we had already lived. If you need to get your book, pause now and go get it. I will know if you do not have a book, so go get a book. We had already lived through a lot that night. We thought that nothing could frighten us anymore. But this harsh word sent shivers through us. The word chimney here was not an abstraction. It floated in the air, mingled with the smoke. It was, perhaps, the only word that had real meaning in this place. He left the barracks. The capos arrived, shouting. Eighth grade, would you like to say hi to Mr. Todd? Mr. Todd, can you come say hi to the eighth grade real quick?
Here.
No, he's saying things. He's just in a different room. Wait 1 second.
Gang, gang.
I don't know what that means, guys.
Night, gang.
I'm stuck with him. I miss you guys. Back to the text. So the capos, remember, they are Jewish people who are doing a lot of the work for the Nazis. They are being the leadership, but we're seeing that they're doing that in different ways. And so that might give us some specific feelings about humanity. All specialists, locksmiths, carpenters, electricians, watchmakers, take one step forward. The rest of us were transferred to yet another barrack, this one of stone. We had permission to sit down. A gypsy inmate was in charge. My father suddenly had a colic attack. He got up and asked politely in German, "Excuse me, could you tell me where the toilets are located?" The gypsy stared at him for a long time, from head to toe, as if he wished to ascertain that the person addressing him was actually a creature of flesh and bone, a human being with a body and a belly. Then, as if waking from a deep sleep, he slapped my father with such force that he fell down and crawled back to his place on all fours. I stood petrified. Petrified means frozen, so you're not actually frozen, but you can't move because you're completely still. What had happened to me? My father had just been struck in front of me, and I had not even blinked. I watched and kept silent. Only yesterday I would have dug my nails into this criminal's flesh. Had I changed that much so fast? Remorse began to gnaw at me. All I could think was, I shall never forgive them for this. My father must have guessed my thoughts, because he whispered in my ear, "It doesn't hurt." His cheek still bore the red mark of a hand. Top of page 40. Everybody outside! A dozen or so gypsies had come to join our guard. The clubs and whips were cracking around me. My feet were running on their own. I tried to protect myself from the blows by hiding behind others. It was spring and the sun was shining. Fall in 5 by 5. The prisoners I had glimpsed that morning were working nearby. No guard in sight, only the chimney's shadow, lulled by the sunshine in my dreams. I felt someone pulling at my sleeve. It was my father. "Come on, son." Guys, I want you to zoom in right there where it says no guard in sight, only the chimney's shadow. I want you to recognize that I believe that's in there intentionally for us to realize that they didn't need a guard standing there to intimidate them to do the work. The fact that they were looking at that chimney producing smoke all day gave them that eerie feeling, so they didn't really need to have a person there. We marched. Gates opened and closed. We continued to march between the barbed wire. At every step, white signs with black skulls looked down on us. The inscription, "Warning, danger of death." What irony! Was there a single place here where one was not in danger of death? The gypsies had stopped next to a barrack. They were replaced by SS men who encircled us with machine guns and police dogs. The march had lasted half an hour. Looking around me, I noticed that the barbed wire was behind us. We had left the camp. It was a beautiful day in May. The fragrances of spring were in the air, and the sun was setting. But no sooner had we taken a few more steps that we saw the barbed wire of another camp. This one had an iron gate with the overhead inscription. I don't know German, so I'm not going to read you those 3 words, but it means, "Work makes you free." Auschwitz. Page 41. So now we know they were at Birkenau as the place where they sort of entered into this system. That's where they had their medical examination. That's where they soaked in the disinfectant. They got the clothes they needed to wear. And then they physically walked themselves into Auschwitz, which we know as one of the most deadly concentration camps that there was during this time. First impression, better than Birkenau. Cement buildings with 2 stories rather than wooden barracks. Little gardens here and there. We were led towards one of those blocks. Seated on the ground by the entrance, we began to wait again. From time to time, someone was allowed to go in. There were showers, a compulsory routine. Going from one camp to the other several times a day, we had each time to go through them. After the hot shower, we stood shivering in the darkness. Our clothes had been left behind. We had been promised other clothes. Around midnight, we were told to run. "Faster," yelled our guards. "The faster you run, the faster you'll get to go to sleep." Please notice, have they slept yet since they've gotten there? I want you to rewind through the pages a little bit, and if you can see how many days it's been since Ellie left his home and how many days it's been since he truly was able to go to sleep. A few minutes of racing madly, we came to a new block. The man in charge was waiting. He was a young Pole who was smiling at us. A Pole means a person from Poland. Poland's a country in Europe. Look it up. Google it. It's right over there. No? Not cool? Okay. Okay. Anyway, he began to talk to us, and despite our weariness, we listened attentively. "Comrades, you are now in the concentration camp Auschwitz. Ahead of you lies a long road paved with suffering. Don't lose hope. You have already eluded the worst danger, the selection. Therefore, muster your strength and keep your faith. We shall all see the day of liberation. Have faith in life, 1,000 times faith. By driving out despair, you will move away from death. Hell does not last forever. And now, here is a prayer, or rather a piece of advice. Let there be camaraderie around you. We are all brothers and share the same fate. The same smoke hovers over all of our heads. Help each other. That is the only way to survive. And now, enough said. You are tired. Listen, you are in block 17. I am responsible for keeping order here. Anyone with a complaint may come to see me. That is all. Go to sleep. 2 people to a bunk. Good night. Those were my first human words. Zoom in on that paragraph, guys. So this young Polish man who is in charge of their barrack, he is Jewish as well. So he is also a prisoner at the concentration camp who has this leadership role. And you see that these words are the first time that someone shows compassion to Ellie and to the Jews that he's with. Also the first time that someone acknowledges that they're going through something awful. Specific words I want you to look at. The word elude. To elude means to escape. Selection. The selection is when they had the doctors and the people in charge choose who was going to live and who is going to be dying immediately. We're going to be seeing several selections, so pay attention to that. Liberation means, yes, Halim? Freedom. Good. Liberation means freedom. And camaraderie means friendship. All right? What's interesting is I think some of that paragraph could apply to us as well right now. We're obviously not in this bad of a situation, but having faith, keeping our strength, having friendship, keeping our heads up, all of those things are stuff we have to do right now to stay strong. Page 42, we have 4 more pages for today. No sooner had we climbed into our bunks that we fell asleep into a deep sleep. The next morning, the veteran inmates treated us without brutality. We went to wash, we were given new clothing, and they brought us black coffee. Is anybody else drinking coffee right now? I hope that you're not. It will stunt your growth, and we all want to get taller. We all know that I'm not getting taller. Thank you, Riley, for making sure I know that. We left the block around 10 o'clock so it could be cleaned. Outside, the sun warmed us. Our morale was much improved. A good night's sleep had done its work. Friends met, exchanged a few sentences. We spoke of everything without ever mentioning those who had disappeared. The prevailing opinion was that the war was about to end. At about noon, we were brought some soup, 1 bowl of thick soup for each of us. I was terribly hungry, yet I refused to touch it. I was still the spoiled child of long ago. My father swallowed my ration. We then had a short nap in the shade of the block. That SS officer in the muddy barrack must have been lying. Auschwitz was, after all, a convalescent home. In the afternoon, they made us line up. 3 prisoners brought a table and some medical instruments. We were told to roll up our left sleeves and file past the table. The 3 veteran prisoners, needles in hand, tattooed numbers on our left arms. I became A77 from 13. A77 13. From then on, I had no other name. Note that that's another way that they're dehumanizing these individuals by removing their names and giving them numbers, just like they are an item to be counted. At dusk, a roll call. The work commandos had returned. The orchestra played military marches near the camp entrance. Tens of thousands of inmates stood in rows while the SS checked their numbers. After the roll call, the prisoners from all of the blocks dispersed, looking for friends, relatives, or neighbors among the arrival of the latest convoy. Days went by. In the mornings, black coffee. At midday, soup. By the 3rd day, I was eagerly eating any kind of soup. At 6 o'clock in the afternoon, roll call, followed by bread with something. At 9 o'clock, bedtime. We had already been in Auschwitz for 8 days. It was after roll call. We stood waiting for the bell announcing its end. Suddenly I noticed someone passing between the rows, and I heard him asking, "Who among you is Wiesel from Sighet?" The person looking for us was a small fellow with spectacles and a wizened face. My father answered, "That is me, Wiesel from Sighet." The fellow's eyes narrowed. He took a long look at my father. "You don't know me? You don't recognize me? I am your relative, Stein. Already forgotten? Stein from Antwerp, Reisel's husband. Your wife was Reisel's aunt? She often wrote to us, and such letters." My father must not have recognized him. He must have barely known him, always being up to his neck in communal affairs and not knowledgeable in family matters. Remember how at the beginning of the book when Ellie describes his family, he says that his dad is more concerned with the goings on of the neighborhood and the community than his own family. We see that looping back around right now. He was always elsewhere, lost in thought. Once a cousin came to see us in Sighet. She had stayed at our house and eaten at our table for 2 weeks before my father noticed her presence for the first time. No, he did not remember Stein. I recognized him right away. I had known Rizel, his wife, before she had left for Belgium. He told us that he had been deported in 1942. He said, "I heard people say that a transport had arrived from your region, and I came to look for you. I thought you might have some news of Rizel and my 2 small boys who stayed in Antwerp." I knew nothing about them. Since 1940, my mother had not received a single letter from them. But I lied. Yes, my mother did hear from them. Rizel is fine, and so are the children. He was weeping with joy. He would have liked to stay longer, to learn more, and to soak up the good news, but an SS was heading in our direction, and he had to go, telling us that he would come back the next day. The bell announced that we were dismissed. We went to fetch the evening meal, bread and margarine. I was terribly hungry, and I swallowed my ration on the spot. My father told me, you mustn't eat all at once. Tomorrow is another day." But seeing as this advice had come too late, and that there was nothing left of my ration, he didn't even start on his own. Me, I am not hungry. One of your comprehension questions is going to be, why did Ellie lie to Stein and say that his family was fine when all signs point to the fact that his family isn't fine? He hasn't heard from them in years. Why might Ellie have lied or given a mistruth in that time instead? I'm not going to tell you the answer, so figure that out yourself. Bottom of page 44, we're almost done for today. We remained in Auschwitz for 3 weeks. We had nothing to do. We slept a lot, in afternoon and at night. Our one goal was to avoid the transports, to stay here as long as possible. It wasn't difficult. It was never enough to sign up as a skilled worker. It was enough never to sign up as a skilled worker. The unskilled were kept until the end. By the start of the 3rd week, our bloc-à-la-teste was removed. He was judged too humane. So the bloc-à-la-teste that was too humane was the man who was the Pole that told them, keep your faith, work together. He got taken away because he was too kind. It's unfortunate. You're not going to like this new guy. The new one was ferocious, and his aides were veritable monsters. Veritable means true. The good days were over. We began to wonder whether it wouldn't be better to let ourselves be chosen for the new transport. Stein, our relative from Antwerp, continued to visit us, and from time to time he would bring a half portion of bread. "Here, this is for you, Eliezer." Every time he came, tears would roll down his icy cheeks. He would often say to my father, "Take care of your son. He is very weak and very dehydrated. Take care of yourselves. You must avoid selection. Eat anything, anytime. Eat all that you can. The weak don't last very long around here." And he himself was so thin, so withered, and so weak. "The only thing that keeps me alive," he kept saying, "is to know that Rizel and the little ones are alive. Were it not for them, I would give up." One evening he came to see us, his face radiant. "A transport just arrived from Antwerp. I shall go to see them tomorrow. Surely they will have news." He left. We never saw him again. He had been given the news, the real news. Evenings as we lay on our cots, we sometimes tried to sing a few Hasidic melodies. A keyboard drummer would break our hearts with his deep, grave voice. Some of the men spoke of God, of his mysterious ways and the sins of the Jewish people, and the redemption to come. As for me, I had ceased to pray. I concurred with Job. I was not denying his existence, but I doubted his absolute justice. Guys, notice how the H in he and his, when it's talking about God, is a capital H. That is something that you're going to pick up on, and when you use your writing, you're going to do that as well. When you talk about God, you use a capital H. The keyboard drummer said, "God is testing us. He wants to see whether we are capable of overcoming our base instincts, of killing the Satan within ourselves. We have no right to despair, and if he punishes us mercilessly, it's a sign that he loves us that much more." Do you guys agree with that? Do you think Ellie's going to agree with that? Hirsch Ganud, well-versed in Kabbalah, spoke of the end of the world and of the coming Messiah. From time to time in the middle of all that talk, a thought crossed my mind. Where's Mother right now? And Tisphora. Mother is still a young woman, my father said once. She must be in a labor camp. And Tisphora, she's a big girl now. She must too be in a camp. How we would have liked to believe that. We pretended, for what if one of us still did believe? All the skilled workers had already been sent to other camps. Only about 100 of us, simple laborers, were left. Today it's your turn, announced the block secretary. You are leaving with the next transport. At 10 o'clock, we were handed our daily ration of bread. A dozen or so SS surrounded us. At the gate, the sign proclaimed that work meant freedom. We were counted, and there we were, in the countryside, on a sunny road, in the sky, a few small white clouds. We were walking slowly. The guards were in no hurry. We were glad of it. As we were passing through some of the villages, many Germans watched us, showing no surprise. No doubt they had seen quite a few of these processions. On the way, we saw some young German girls. The guards began to tease them. The girls giggled. They allowed themselves to be kissed and tickled, bursting with laughter. They were all laughing, joking, and passing love notes to one another. At least during all that time, we endured neither shouting nor blows. After 4 hours of walking, we arrived at the new camp, Buna. The iron gate closed behind us. Go on to the Google Classroom, click the classwork tab, open up the night comprehension questions in Graphic Organizer, and complete as many of the questions as you're able to based on what we have read so far. And if you check, look, we are already halfway done this book. Have fun with those questions, and I'll see you in a few minutes for vocabulary. Bye.